Okay, class, we're starting on section 4.6, order of operations on fractions. We have section A, order of operation problems. Okay, here we have parentheses or other grouping symbols that have operations inside them, exponents, and watch out for negative numbers and fractions. Remember that parentheses around either of these makes a big difference in the results. So this right here is listing our order of operations. We know number one is the parentheses or the grouping symbols. Number two is our exponents. And of course we got to watch for the negative numbers and fractions. Number three, remember, is multiplication or division, whichever one comes first from left to right. And finally, number four, addition or subtraction, whichever one comes first from left to right. That was just a brief overview of order of operations. Now let's try a couple examples. Okay, first, we would do what's in parentheses here. 1/2 minus 1/6. Okay, so we have 1/2 minus 1/6. Now, in accordance to what you all learned in class, we're going to do the prime factorization to find our common denominators. We have 2 and we have 6. 2 is already prime, so 2 is the prime factorization of 2. With 6, we have 2 times 3, and 2 and 3 are prime. So 6's prime factorization is 2 and 3. So now this is what we do. The numbers that match, we count once. So we have 2. And we have a 3 left over. So 2 times 3 is 6. That would be our common denominator. So this 2 would become 6, and this 6 will remain 6. Now we go back here. We have the number 2. We have to ask ourselves, remember, we're comparing this denominator to this denominator here. So we ask ourselves, what does this denominator, which is 6, have that 2 does not? So we look here at their prime factorization. We look at 2 and we look at 6. What we notice is 6 has a 3 that 2 does not. So we have to take that 3 and multiply it by the top and bottom of this 1/2. So we add 3 times 2, which is 6, which we have here, and 3 times 1, which is 3. Now this 6 here, we compare it to the 2. We go here and look at this 6. We say, what does 2 have that 6 does not? And we notice here both of them have a 2. So 6 doesn't have anything that 2 does not. So we write it down as it was in the original fraction. So now we have 3/6 minus 1/6, which is 2/6. Now we can simplify that by doing the prime factorization. We know 2 is prime, and we already found the prime factorization of 6, which is 2 times 3. Now these two 2's simplify out, and you're left with 1/3. Now we bring down this 3/4. We bring down this 3/4 and the division sign. So now we have 3/4 divided by 1/3. Now again, remember I told you, you always keep this first fraction the same. So we will bring down our 3/4, and then division becomes multiplication, and we take the reciprocal of the second fraction. Now we multiply. We have 3 times 3, which is 9, and 4 times 1, which is 4. Now 9 and 4 has nothing in common, so our final answer is 9/4. We're not asked to write this as a mixed number, and the problem did not start off as a mixed number, so we could leave it as 9/4. Okay, now we go to problem number 2. Now we look here. We have the operations, division, and multiplication. Now we know according to the order of operations, they have the same rank. However, we must do this first from left to right. So we would take the 2/3, write it as is. The division becomes multiplication, and we take the reciprocal of the 4/5, which is 5/4. Now we look here. We want to do the prime factorization of these numbers. We add 2, which is prime, times 5, which is prime. So we'll just carry that over. 3 is prime, but we know 4 is not. Now if we write the prime factorization of 4 here, it breaks down to 2 times 2. So we will write the 2 times 2 here. Now, we simplify out what they have in common. They have these 2's in common, and we're left with 5/6. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to take this 3/5 and bring it down here. So it'd be 5/6 times 3/5. Now we do like we did in not the last problem, but the first part of this problem. So we'll write the prime factorization. 5 is already prime, and 3 is prime. 6 is not prime. We already did the prime factorization over here. 6 prime factorization is 2 times 3. And then we carry over this 5 as well. Now we simplify out the terms that we have in common. We have these 5's in common and also these 3's. So now, since we simplified everything out of the numerator, that becomes 1. Our denominator, we have a 2 here, and these factored out, so this is equivalent to 2 times 1 times 1, which is 2. So our final answer here is 1/2. Now we scroll down. Scroll down here to examples 3 and 4. Now we start this off basically the same as we did number 1. We do the parentheses. So we will have 1/2 minus 1/3. Now, since both of these are already prime numbers, we could go here. The prime factorization, we add 2 and 3. 2 is prime and 3 is prime. So when we compare these denominators, and of course we multiply these two prime numbers. So that would be, our denominator would be 6. So we have a denominator of 6. Now, this is what happens. We compare this. First we're comparing 2 with this 3. So we ask, what does this 3 have that 2 does not? And we know it's a 3. So we'll multiply this numerator and denominator by that 3. So 3 times 2 is 6, which we already have, and 3 times 1 is 3. Next, we look at this denominator here, this 3. We ask ourselves, what does 2 have that this 3 does not? And we know it's 2. So we'll multiply the numerator and denominator by 2. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 3 times 2 is 6. So now we subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1, and we carry over our 6. Now, we bring this down here. We bring down our 36 times, and then in parentheses we have 1/6, and that's squared. Now we know we do this exponent first. 1/6 squared is the same thing as saying, let me write this 36 down. It's the same thing as saying 1/6 in parentheses times 1/6 in parentheses. So this would be 36. 1 times 1 is 1, and 6 times 6 is 36. Now we have 36 times 1/6. Now I'm going to bring this up here because I didn't leave myself enough space down here. So I'm going to make this 36 over 1 times the parenthesis 1/36. 36 times 1 is 36, and 1 times 36 is 36. And we know any number divided by itself except 0 equals 1. So that's the final answer to number 3. Now we come over here to number 4. We look inside this parenthesis. We cannot do anything inside this parenthesis, but we do have this exponent here. So what I'm going to do is to separate these problems. I'm going to draw this little line here to let you know that this problem only goes with number 3. Now with number 4, we have this parenthesis. It'll be 3/4 in parenthesis times 3/4 in parenthesis minus, in your numerator here you will have 5 times 5, and your denominator to be 6. 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 4 is 16, minus 5 times 5 is 25, and that's over 6. Now we have to find a common denominator. Now we have 16 and 6. We could go off here to the side and do the prime factorization of 16, which we have is 2 times 8. So this 2 is prime. 8 breaks down to 2 times 4. and then 4 breaks down to 2 times 2. So now our prime factorization of 16 is 4 2's. Okay, now the reason why I didn't write, well, I'll write 6 here. Here we have 6. The prime factorization of 6 is 2 and 3. So we'll bring that down here as well. So now we have to build our prime factorization. Now we notice here they have one set of 2's in common. So we'll write that down once. These other 3 2's we will write down as well. And we will also bring down this 3. So their prime factorization, well, their least common denominator from the prime factorization is 48. So the common denominator is 16 and 6 is 48. Now we go and ask ourselves, we have 16 first. We're going to compare it to 6. So we ask us, what does 6 have that 16 does not? When we look here, the only thing 6 has that 16 does not is this 3. So we'll go back up to this original fraction and we'll multiply it by 3 over 3. Now we ask ourselves with 6, we compare 6 to the 16. We ask ourselves, what does 16 have that 6 does not? And if you notice here, what 16 have that 6 does not is these 3 2's. So you'll multiply those 3 2's. It'll be 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So you'll multiply your numerator and denominator by 8. So now 3 times 9 here is 27, and we know 3 times 16 gave us 48. Minus 25 times 8 is 200, and 6 times 8 is 48. So now we have 27 minus 200, which would give us a negative, and our denominator would be 48. 27 minus 200 will give us a negative 173. And 173 and 48 has nothing in common. So our final answer is this negative 173 over 48. Now we scroll down here. We go to section B, evaluating expressions. Now with this here, we're going to do some substitution. Now with the x squared, we know x is 2/3. So we'll put 2/3 in the parentheses squared, minus the y value, which is a negative 1/4. Now 2/3 in parentheses squared, we know it's the same as 2/3 in parentheses times 2/3 in parentheses minus a negative 1/4, which will give us a positive 1/4. 2 times 2 is 4, and 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1/4. Now we have to find a common denominator. So we add 9 and 4. The prime factorization of 9 is 3 and 3, and the prime factorization of 4 is 2 and 2. Now we do the comparison. What does 4 have? Well, first of all, let's multiply these. We'll have our 2 2's and 2 3's. So that would give us 36. So the common denominator would be 36. Now we ask ourselves, what does 4 have that 9 does not? And that answer is 2 2's. So what we would need to do is multiply this fraction by 4 over 4. Now for the second fraction, we ask ourselves, what does 9 have that 4 does not? And that's 2 3's, and we know that's 9. So we multiply the numerator and denominator by 9. 4 times 4 is 16, and 4 times 9 is 36. 1 times 9 is 9, and 4 times 9 is 36. 16 plus 9 is 25, all over 36. And they have nothing else in common, so your answer here is 25 over 36.